I start with a 6mm hex to remove the foot peg. Let's see. Okay, see, a lot of it Loctite. Probably why it's so. This one hot too, but not enough, not as much as the other one. Okay, maybe that was tighter. That's why. Next step will be start with this 1-hour spins. I'm going to use a lift. You don't have to use a lift. You could even use maybe some, I don't know, wood or something that keep the exhaust leveled. But just touch it. That's all you need to do. You don't have to lift it. Just touch it. All right, we're gonna use a 4mm hex for the lower fairing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 from the other side. Okay, let's put this. So what's keeping it here is this stand wire. We're gonna unclip. You can't really see it underneath it, but you can feel it. So you can unclip it. There you go. 1. There you go. That's loose. So this must pretty much clips here and here. So for this, it's still a 4mm. You could still use a shorter one. It still grabs it, but it's at its limits. You can still use it, but I'm afraid that could strip it. So for this reason, I'm going to use a longer version. You could use this one, but if you put this, if it's factory torque, it might be a little bit too tight. So I'm gonna try to turn it. Not really turning, it's way too tight, so I'm just gonna use this one. Go in. See? That was way too tight. Yep. You can tell that was never unscrewed. There you go. So it's keeping it. You pull it. There you go. This is the radiator hose. It was keeping it in its place. That's right. Now from the other side. This. The stand. Which normally when you change oil, you just put this in its place. You don't have to remove this. But right now we will, because it's going to be in the way for the headers. Okay. So just going to pick for this. You could also use a flathead screwdriver for this. There you go. It has these teeth here that's keeping it in place.
Bites on the
it bites
plastic.
On the fairing. For the two side fairings we have 1, 2, 3 I believe the 4mm. We're gonna verify right now. Let's see. Yep, 4mm. 1, 2, 3, 4mm. Now under here, I don't even know if you can see, we have 1, 2, 3 Torx bit 25. So they're T25s. 1, 2, 3. We have one here, which is, you could call this a rivet style plastic thingy, whatever that is. So
Yeah, plug.
I'm actually gonna start with this.
Okay.
Okay. Push it from behind, just pull it to come off. There it is. It's plug. So it goes. When you reinsert it after, you can just pull it off, put this in first, and then plug it with this. It's like a rivet style and press it in.
Ah.
So we're gonna start with this. We're gonna start with the two T25s underneath here. Yeah, much better. See, 1, 2, 3 T25s. So it's pretty tight in here. So this I could get, but you can also use a key. There you go. Just to get them loose enough. You know what? I'm actually gonna keep these two still in, because to remove the fairing, actually, you have to remove this inner part, which is 1, 2 hex. I believe it's 2.5mm. So 1, 2, 2.5mm, and we have a Phillips head there. That once we remove this, underneath it, there's 2 more bolts, I believe, to remove the fairing. So let's get these now. And I can never remember what's the best way to remove it. There you go. Twist it. And go underneath. And this is why I like the Rizoma mirrors, because we're gonna go to the track and thinking about removing the mirrors.
Oh yeah.
You always have to remove this to get to the mirrors, so it's a pain. So get Rizoma mirrors, guys.
Get it from Victor too.
Yep. One flat side, one. Okay. So we also see here we have one here for the fairing, and there it is. There's the second one. I believe that's an 8mm. You can use obviously an 8mm, but for this specifically, I will use a 5/16. 5/16 is pretty much 7.9mm. So you have a better, it's a little more tight.
Yep.
So I prefer it. So now we should be able to remove the fairing. There you go. It just has to kind of like unclip underneath. Here, let me show you.
Okay.
In the front, it has underneath here See how it loops this plastic over there? Over here, so you have to like pull this out. And then pull this out there. And now we're out. It's like a small plastic part over there. So that's the whole fairing.
Ah, nice.
To do that from the other side. Now that we remove all the fairings, we're gonna start with removing the hanger bolt that holds the exhaust in the middle. I'm actually gonna need your help for this. You're gonna hold this here.
Okay.
And that's a 10 millimeter that you're holding over there.
Yep.
And I'm going to use a 13 millimeter for the bolt from my side here. All right. That was tight. So the reason it gets stuck is because this
Plate.
here it hits like this at the exhaust, so you can't actually pull it. So you have to keep this in place and just pull this only.
Ah.
So it's not as hard as it looked.
Yep.
So keep these just in case. Now pretty much the lift is going to hold the exhaust under here. Over there. Just barely putting some pressure.
The lift is not required.
I mean,
you can just use like a stuff to stuff it underneath the exhaust and
you
hold
can,
it.
but right now this bolt also holds the
Yep.
exhaust in place from here. So once you remove all of them, then you definitely need something to hold it, or else the whole weight will go on the exhaust.
Yep.
So I will actually leave this in place for now.
Uh-huh.
Once I complete the headers
Uh-huh.
and the radiator, that's where I'm gonna remove this. There's one here, and I believe there's one more
On the other side.
There you go.
Yep.
So even though we removed the center one at the hanger, this still keeps it in place. So I'm gonna leave this as an extra safety until we're completed there, and then when we're completed here, I'm gonna leave this last.
Okay.
All right, so now we're gonna loosen the radiator as much as we can so we can fit in between the radiator and the headers. So we're gonna go with 1, 2, 3, 4 from the other side. This is a 3 millimeter. And we'll have to actually unscrew this underneath here, which is, this is an 8 millimeter, and the nut from the other side is a 10 millimeter. So you're gonna need a 10 millimeter. Behind it, you're gonna need the 8 millimeter here to unscrew it. So it's holding it. There's an 8 millimeter and there's a 10.
Ah.
There you go. So now we're gonna remove these 4 millimeter pegs. And before we do the 2 bolts on the other side, we're gonna unscrew these. This one here, which I believe is also an 8 millimeter. Yep, it is.
It is.
So even if I remove all these bolts, the radiator still stays in place because in the center it has a bracket that hangs, so it keeps it in place.
It hooks on the frames.
It hooks, yep. See. Yeah, this is
Now the radiator can move.
yeah.
It was hooked inside in the frame, plastic frames. I mean, it's a plastic part underneath the frame, but
See, this will give us enough space here. I mean, it's gonna be tricky, but we'll make it work. And there. So next step will be to remove the O2 sensors, and then we're gonna go for the header bolts. All right, so first O2 sensor is here. I'm gonna lift this boot here and unclip it. There we go, that's one. And then we're gonna remove this two later, so we can pull the O2 sensor with the exhaust out. And then second O2 sensor is actually bolted here with a 4mm hex. This O2 sensor is the trickiest to unplug because there's really no space in there. So if you notice here, the O2 sensor is in there, right there.
the green part.
Yep. And it's literally no way for you to put your finger in there and clip it to unclip it, pretty much. So okay, so for this O2 sensor, you're not gonna need any of this. You're just gonna lift it underneath it with your index finger, and just pull it a little bit towards down. There you go. So pretty much you're lifting this, you're putting pressure on this. So while you're putting pressure on this, you're lifting it down because this clips underneath it. So that's the way. No need for these. So let's remove this O2 sensor, put it on the side. I really want to avoid removing the O2 sensor because I'm pretty sure there's a better way to remove this. Again, so the O2 sensor is a 17mm. I'm going to remove it. You don't have to remove it, but I will because it just makes my life easier. So when you remove it, make sure you're twisting the wire with the turn.
Because this wire is connected to the sensor.
There you go. So as you turning it, make sure the wire follows. You don't want to twist the wire. There you go.
Nice. So you're going to attach it on the new exhaust anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna take it off anyway, so let's put it back. No reason to remove that. Now we have all the space, almost all the space we need for the header bolts. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 in total header bolts. Okay, so now we have to go for those.
Okay.
Alright, so now we're gonna unscrew the 4 header bolts. The left, the outer left, which is right here, is probably the easiest to reach. And also the far right is the easiest to reach. The 2 center ones are the trickiest because you have to go in between the radiator. So for instance, for this, to reach it, you will have to go underneath. It's 10mm. Header bolts are 10mm. Probably gonna need a small extension just so you can get a better reach inside. And then slowly start unscrewing. These are copper. They strip very easily, so make sure you're always seated and start unscrewing. Okay, we're pretty loose here. We're not gonna unbolt it completely. We're gonna start loosening up the rest. So let's go from the other side. That's the right outer bolt. This is also easy to reach, so we might need a different. Let's see. There. So see, I'm making sure I'm all the way seated in, because if you're not and you pull, you might strip it. It's okay to take your time with these. Don't rush. Okay, this is pretty loose right now. Let's see about the inner. See, for that you would have to come here. So underneath, you could see them right there, or maybe from here. There you go. Those two bolts are the two inner bolts that you have to reach for. Okay, so you have the right outer, the two inner, and the far left. These two inner are the trickiest. Let's see. All four are removed. Right.
So now all the weight is on this bolt and bolt on the other side. And this.
So, because I'm OCD, I actually purchased 4 new sets of them. They're very cheap. They're like $5 or something. Just in case something goes wrong, just in case you strip a bolt, doesn't hurt to have them. I recommend it. So we don't have to use them, we're fine. But we can technically remove the exhaust, but before we do it, we have to remove these 2 bolts. I believe these are 3 millimeters from the right and the left side. We can also actually probably remove this. There you go. This can be removed. The right side cannot, because the foot brake is in front of it. So, okay. Make sure you drop these down. Make sure they're out of the bolts.
The rings, right?
Yep. Because you don't want to finagle it. It's just try to move it while these are in, and strip those bolts over there. So make sure they're out. Both are out. So right now, technically we can remove the exhaust. So I will grab, I might need you to twist this left. Drop the weight.
Okay.
So actually twist the left so the weight drops. Yep, there you go. Now the exhaust is in my hands. So I'm gonna pull front. Very carefully. There you go. Go slow with this. Alright. Make sure that you have no O-rings stuck in here, because there's 2 O-rings on the header. So we're clear here. I'm gonna reuse the O2 sensor in a little bit. There are 2, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. There are 2 O-rings over there. Just leave them in place. Don't remove them, because if you remove them, they won't stick in place after that, and you will have to use some type of
Oil. You just
Oil.
use your engine oil to do it as like your oil filter. Just put it on the O-ring.
just a little dab in the O-ring.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you do that, when you start the bike, you'll start getting
A little bit smoke.
a little bit of smoke, and that's because the oil here will start burning. So to avoid all that, just keep the O-rings where they are. Don't remove them. Leave it the way it is. Just do a final inspection, make sure that everything's clear here, and you're good to go to insert the SC Project. All right. Now we're gonna remove the left O2 sensor from the stock exhaust.
Is it 17 too?
17, yes. Once you unbolt it loose, then you just need to twist it. Remember, always twist the wire too with it. There you go.
Thanks.
So the O2 sensor with the plastic goes in the left header, and the other two sensor goes to the right. So I'm going to insert them on the SC Project headers. Make sure to inspect the bolts to make sure the threadings, because sometimes you never know. And
There are some kinks inside.
Yeah.
They didn't cut it off.
go parallel. Make sure you hand tight first. There shouldn't be any resistance. There you go, to the end. That's one. I don't have torque specs for this, but even if I did, it wouldn't matter because I actually don't have the torque wrench, the torque wrench needed for this. So I will go hand tight. There's no way to explain how tight, it's just that it has to be tight enough. That it pretty much doesn't twist anymore from this distance. Don't go further more because obviously you're gonna put more torque on it. So just go from here, and as much as you can twist from this side, I would just say it's good to go. So yeah, I literally have to hold it like this.
In every one of them.
Yeah, and just go like this inside while threading the whole thing. Yep, I'm in.
Nice.
So now you have to be going back and forth because you can't just completely tighten this and then go to the next one and the next one. You have to go gradually so they can seat flat. So if you over tighten this and you crook it from the other side, you're gonna be in trouble. All right.
All right.
Okay, so all 4 head bolts are pretty much tight enough for us to start torquing them. We're gonna torque them at 13 Newton meters, which is roughly 9.5 foot-pounds, 9.58 foot-pounds, but there's no way you can adjust that. So either 13 Newton meters or 9.5 foot-pounds. So let's see. And we're gonna go slow. We're not gonna torque them all at once. Because they have a lot of more room. Yeah.
Last one.
We should still be torqued, but we're just gonna inspect it. Because we torqued the rest of them, this might lose torque, so let's find out. Nope. Torqued. Awesome. So we're all torqued. So technically it would be best if you fit this under there before you fit the mid pipe, but it's still okay. If you use the instructions, you'll be able to see how to connect everything. I'm not gonna go over this because everything is listed here, so let's put that over there. It's best that you use this a little bit of Loctite because they're not put this out of the way. Not lock nuts, so there we go. All right, exhaust is installed. First start with baffle on. All right, whenever you're ready. Right, second startup, baffle off. Let's hear it. My opinion is that it is louder, but it's not insanely louder. It's not just because you're gonna remove the baffle doesn't mean it's gonna sound like the CRT. It's just louder. My opinion, I would definitely keep the baffle off because with the baffle it kind of like sounds too friendly. You know what I mean? So what do you think? Keep the baffle on? Or
I think keep the baffle off.
off, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It
definitely.
sounds identical, but with a little bit volume.
I think Baffle Off is a more friendlier CRT, because my exhaust, it's way too much. I think we're just gonna put them side by side, start your bike, no baffle, and then I'm gonna start my bike and do a small comparison, see how it sounds. All right.
Okay.
All right, so what we're gonna do, one last sound check. Ethan's gonna start his bike, then I'm gonna start my bike, and we're gonna do some revs next to each other to see how they both sound. Let's see. You can go first. Yeah. So basically, if the CRT is on, you cannot hear that one. I mean, you can hear it, you can hear the bass, but I mean, yeah, it's pretty much gonna cover it. But again, as I said, it's too much, guys. Would I still choose this? Hell yeah, because I only ride once a week, I only ride at the canyons. So I don't commute with it. I know Ethan commutes a lot more than I do, so I think he made the best choice. He also went with titanium, not carbon, which is going to last a lot longer, so have fun, Ethan.
Thanks, Mike.